What if I told you the most destructive thing you do to your favorite fishing spot happens after you've already decided to leave? It sounds crazy, right? We spend all day being quiet, making the perfect cast and respecting the water. But the damage, the real, lasting damage, is often done in a 10-minute window when our guard is down. Today, we're talking about the end of your trip and how a few common habits can make or break that spot for the entire next season. You are about to discover a subtle mistake that thousands of anglers make, turning honey holes into ghost towns. And it's not what you think. It's not about the lures you use or the noise you make when you arrive. It's about how you leave. So let me ask you this before we even start. Do you believe a spot can be permanently burned out by an angler's presence alone? Drop your thoughts down below. Look, we all have that one place, that little point, that submerged log, that weed line. It's our go-to. It's the spot that saves a tough day. And when it stops producing, it's frustrating. The common wisdom is to blame fishing pressure from other boats, or maybe a change in the season. We think the damage is done by pulling too many fish out of the hole, but the truth is we are often our own worst enemies. For years, the ingrained habit has been to fish hard right up until the last second. We get into that one last cast mentality, and then we rush to pack up, start the motor, and race back to the ramp. We're thinking about the drive home, not about the dozen fish still sitting on that spot, watching and learning from our every move. Today we're going to change that. Let's start with the most common sin, the one last cast syndrome. You've had a decent day, you know you should leave, but the urge is too strong, so you fire off a final hopeful cast. But think about it. Is this your best cast of the day? Rarely. It's often rushed. Your form is sloppy. You might even cast right over the top of where you suspect the fish are holding. Instead of a careful presentation, you're sending a signal of chaos. You're no longer hunting, you're just flailing. This single, careless action can be the first domino to fall in spooking the remaining unbitten fish in the area. They see that unnatural splash and jerky retrieve, and it puts them on high alert right before you perform your grand finale of noise and commotion. Now let's consider what happens right after that last cast. You reel in, and you immediately reach for the trolling motor, cranking it to high to get back to a better position for packing up. That little electric motor might seem quiet to you, but to a fish, it's a sudden, high-frequency vibration cutting through their world. It's the equivalent of a loud engine starting up in a quiet library. The fish that were already on edge from your last sloppy cast now feel this intense, unfamiliar vibration directly above them. This is not a natural sound, it's a clear and present signal of a large, non-predatory and therefore dangerous presence. You are actively teaching them that this specific location is a source of strange and threatening vibrations. The next step in this spot-ruining process is the big one, literally firing up the outboard motor. Too many anglers will use their trolling motor to get just far enough away to drop the big engine, and then they start it right on top of the spot. That sudden, explosive roar, the churning of the water, and the exhaust fumes create a massive sensory assault. Imagine you're a base sitting in 4 feet of water. You've just been bombarded by weird lures, strange vibrations, and now a deafening explosion and violent current. You're not just spooking them for the next 10 minutes, you're creating a traumatic memory associated with that exact piece of structure. They learn that when those boats appear, this chaos follows. It's classic conditioning. Let's talk about pressure waves. Even before you start the motor, your boat movement is a huge factor. When you decide to leave, you start moving around the boat. You stand up, you walk to the front to pull the trolling motor, you move back to the console. Every step you take shifts the boat's hull in the water, sending out pressure waves. Fish are masters at detecting these changes through their lateral lines. A slow, methodical movement is one thing. A series of fast, erratic shifts in pressure is another. It signals instability and danger. The fish that have been watching your lure all day now feel the world around them physically moving in a threatening way. This is a clear signal that the large object above them is active and potentially hostile. Here's a factor bank fishermen are especially guilty of, but boaters are too: the shadow of death. As you're packing up, you're standing, you're moving, and you're casting a large, shifting shadow over the water. To any fish, a large, dark shape moving overhead is a primal signal for a predator, like a bird of prey. They don't know you're just putting a rod away. They see a massive, unpredictable shadow blocking out the sun, and their instinct is to bolt for the deepest cover they can find. If your secret spot is in relatively shallow water, this is a huge mistake. You've spent hours trying to be stealthy, only to stand up at the very end and scare every fish within a 30-foot radius with your own silhouette. Let's move on to the noise signature you create. Your fishing time is over, so your stealth mode is switched off. You stow your rods and they clank against the side of the boat. You open a storage locker and you let the lid slam shut. That sharp thump travels through the hull of your boat and amplifies directly into the water. Sound travels more than 4 times faster in water than in air. That slam isn't just a slam, it's a shockwave. To the fish below, it's a sudden, sharp, and completely unnatural sound. It's another layer of negative reinforcement. Lures, vibrations, shadows, and now explosive noises are all coming from this one specific area. You are building a powerful case for them to never return. Now think about the gear on your deck. You have pliers, a hook-out tool, maybe a stray lure or two. As you tidy up, one of them slips and clatters onto the floor of the boat. Another sharp, metallic sound reverberates through the water. Maybe you drop the anchor with a loud thud while getting it secured. All of these individual seemingly minor noises add up. It's a symphony of chaos. The fish have been in a relatively calm environment, and the last 10 minutes of your presence are filled with these jarring, metallic, and heavy sounds. You're not just leaving the spot, you're leaving a sonic scar. This is how a spot gets educated. The fish learn to associate the sound of a boat with danger, not just the sight of a lure. This brings us to one of the most critical elements, how you handle that final fish. Let's say your one last cast actually worked and you hooked a fish. You're in a hurry. You fight it aggressively, you drag it all across the spot, pulling it over the heads of the other fish in the school. This panicked, struggling fish is a massive red flag to every other fish in the area. They see one of their own in extreme distress, being forcibly pulled away by an unseen force. This visual confirmation of danger is incredibly powerful. You're not just removing one fish, you're showing the entire school exactly what happens when they bite your lure. It's a live demonstration of the threat. Let's dig deeper into that last fish fight. When a fish is stressed, some species release alarm pheromones or distress signals into the water. It's a chemical scream that says, "Danger!" When you're fighting that last fish all over the school, it's potentially pumping out these chemical warnings. So now the other fish aren't just seeing the struggle, they are smelling or sensing the panic. You are contaminating the spot with the very essence of fear. And where is this scent concentrated? Right on your secret spot. You've effectively marked your honey hole with a chemical "stay away" sign for other fish. This is biological warfare against your own spot, and you're the one waging it. And what about the release? You're in a hurry, so maybe the release isn't as gentle as it should be. You unhook the fish and just kind of toss it back into the water with a big splash. That fish, still panicked, darts erratically back down into the school. It's not a calm return, it's a chaotic retreat. This fish is now a messenger of doom. Its panicked behavior and speed confirm to the other fish that the danger was real and severe. A gentle, careful release allows a fish to return to the school with less panic, signaling that the threat may have passed. A sloppy release, however, reinforces the trauma for the entire school. It's the final visual cue that tells them this place is not safe. Now for the ones that got away, let's talk about educating the survivors. For every fish you caught, there might be 5, 10, or even 20 others on that spot that saw your lure but didn't commit. They watched the whole show. They saw their schoolmates get hooked. They felt the vibrations from your trolling motor. They heard you slam the locker lids. They saw your shadow pass overhead. These fish are the ones that matter for next year. They are the survivors, and they have just received a masterclass in angler avoidance. You have successfully taught the smartest, most cautious fish in the school exactly what your boat, your lures, and your presence mean. You've made them smarter and your spot tougher. Think of it from a fish's perspective. Their entire world is about survival. They have two main goals: eat and not be eaten. For hours, your lure was presented as a potential food source. Some of them fell for it. But in the last 10 minutes, you switched from presenting food to presenting pure, overwhelming threat. The vibrations, the noise, the shadows, the panicked fish, it all adds up to a single, inescapable conclusion for them. This area, this specific submerged log or weed patch, is a death trap. Their instincts for self-preservation will now be hardwired to this spot. The next time they feel a boat's pressure wave, they won't be curious, they'll be gone. Let's discuss something you might not even think about: your scent trail. As you're packing up, you might decide to wash your hands over the side of the boat. Maybe you used some hand sanitizer or bug spray earlier in the day. These chemical residues wash off into the water, right on your spot. Fish have an incredible sense of smell. These unnatural chemical scents are another foreign signal. It's like leaving a human footprint at a crime scene. Even worse is spilling a tiny bit of gas or oil. That stuff spreads across the surface and leaves a lasting taint. You wouldn't pour bug spray into your aquarium, so why do it on your best fishing spot? Here's another one for the live bait anglers. What do you do with your leftover minnows or worms at the end of the day? A lot of guys just dump the bucket over the side before they head in. You might think you're feeding the fish, but you're actually doing two negative things. First, you're introducing a sudden, massive glut of easy food that isn't acting naturally. Second, you risk introducing non-native species or diseases from your bait bucket into the ecosystem. But from a spot burning perspective, you're teaching the fish that when the big scary monster leaves, a free buffet appears. It can alter their feeding patterns and make them less likely to chase a lure that requires work. Let's put all the pieces together. It's not one single action, but the cumulative effect of all these mistakes. Think of it as a checklist for burning a spot. Hasty last cast, check. Trolling motor on high, check. Loud outboard startup, check. Slamming lids and dropping gear, check. Careless final fish fight, check. You've just bombarded the fish with a multisensory attack. You have given them visual, audible, and chemical reasons to abandon that spot. You've perfectly executed a master plan on how to convince fish that your honey hole is the most dangerous place in the entire lake. And you did it all in the 10 minutes you were thinking about getting home. Some might say, oh, come on, they're just fish. They have a 3-second memory. This is one of the biggest myths in fishing. Scientific studies have shown that fish, especially species like bass and carp, can remember negative experiences for months, if not longer. They can learn to avoid specific lure types, colors, and, most importantly, locations associated with danger. They are not mindless eating machines. They are wild animals honed by millions of years of evolution to recognize and avoid threats. Your sloppy departure is a very clear, very memorable threat. They absolutely remember, and that's why the spot is dead next season. So, what's the solution? It's simple in concept, but it requires discipline. Your departure needs to be as stealthy as your arrival. The moment you decide you're done fishing, you need to remain in fishing mode. That means no sudden movements, no loud noises, no rushing. Think of yourself as a sniper exiting a position. You want to leave without anyone ever knowing you were there. This is the professional mindset that separates good anglers from great ones. The fishing trip isn't over when you stop casting. It's over when your boat is on the trailer. Here's a practical step-by-step for a silent retreat. First, stop fishing a full 10 minutes before you actually need to leave. Use this time to quietly organize your gear. Place your rods in their holders gently. Put your tackle away without slamming lids. Move slowly and deliberately around the boat. Keep your profile low. Stay seated if you can. Every action should be smooth and quiet. You are trying to project an aura of calm to signal to any remaining fish that the big object above them is harmless and is slowly becoming inactive. This de-escalates the situation in the water below. When it's time to physically leave the spot, the same rules apply. Use your trolling motor on a very low, consistent speed to slowly and quietly pull away from the spot. Don't make sharp turns, don't dramatically change speed. You want to glide away. Go at least 50 to 100 yards away from your spot before you even think about starting the big motor. Get well away from the fish you hope to catch next time. By the time you start your outboard, the sound and commotion should be a distant, non-threatening event to the fish on your spot, not a direct, terrifying attack. This is the single biggest change you can make. Finally, this is about respect. It's about respecting the fish and the resource. We're not just there to rip lips and go home. We are visitors in their environment. By adopting this quiet and respectful departure strategy, you're not just preserving your spot for your own use, you're reducing the overall stress on the fish population. Healthier, less stressed fish are more likely to feed, grow, and spawn, creating a better fishery for everyone. It seems like a small thing, those last 10 minutes, but it's a reflection of a bigger mindset. It's the difference between being an extractor and being a steward of the sport we love. So there you have it. The real damage, the thing that turns a hot spot into a cold memory, often isn't what you take out of the water. It's the information, the negative education you leave behind, the noise, the pressure waves, the shadows, the panic. You are literally training the most cautious fish to treat your secret spot like a minefield. The biggest takeaway, the real aha moment, is this. You must leave a spot as quietly and respectfully as you arrived. Your departure is the final part of your presentation. Think of yourself as a ghost. You slip in, you catch your fish, and you slip out. The fish that are left behind should, ideally, have no idea you were ever there. This simple shift in mindset from a rushed exit to a stealthy retreat can revive old spots and preserve your new ones for years, not just for a few trips. It might be the most important strategic change you make all season. Thank you so much for watching and for being willing to challenge some old habits. If this video made you rethink your end-of-day routine, do me a favor and hit that like button. And make sure you're subscribed for more tips that don't follow the pack. Now I have to ask you, and be honest, what's the one bad habit from this list that you realize you might be guilty of when packing up? Let's talk about it in the comments. I'm sure we're all guilty of at least one.